Hello, everyone. Bienvenidos. I am so excited because, I've been after this woman for like months, maybe years, because we know each other from Instagram. And I was like, I want to get to know her. So, everyone, por favor, open your hearts for Lexie Forbes. Hola, Lexie. Hi, Lexie.
Hola, hello everybody.
I'm so happy you're here. Before we get into it, I always love to read the bio because I'm like, I know I'm going to put it into the body, but I want people to know who's talking and what's happening. So, Lexie Forbes is your go to astrologer and spiritual social media consultant who knows how to mix cosmic vibes with killer marketing strategies. With a master's degree in marriage and family therapy and a knack for blending intuition with business, Lexie helps entrepreneurs turn their purpose into powerful content that actually connects. Whether she's mapping out birth chart inspired marketing plans or cracking jokes about Mercury retrograde, Lexie's all about helping her clients shine online and attract their dream audience with ease and alignment. So, my question, Lexie, off the bat is, did you come to astrology like later in life? I know you're young.
Yeah.
Was it something you were always interested in? Like, what was the journey to discovering astrology? Because like I grew up with it, right? Like
Yeah.
I was like, you're a Capricorn, that means you're very ambitious. I'm like
Yeah.
5 years old. Because Mercado was on TV. So
Right.
what
Oh,
was your
yeah.
journey?
Well, for me, it's interesting. Like, I fell in love with astrology probably when I was about 12. But I was actually raised inside of a cult. So I wasn't allowed to embrace astrology. So I had to hide it. So I was really into, at that time, I didn't know anything about birth charts. I was really just into horoscopes. I loved reading horoscopes in like Cosmo magazine and Teen magazine and things like that. And I just would always tell my friends, like, oh, you're a Cancer. So let me see what's happening for you this month, and things like that. So I had to hide it. But then over the years, when I hit like, I fast forward to my Saturn return, which is around 29. I actually left my cult and I became really aware of what I didn't realize I was in a cult. I still thought I was in a religion, but I did become aware that I wasn't in agreement with a lot of the stuff that I had been raised with. And so I left. And when I left, I still very much connected to spirituality and I needed to have something to like practice. So I started going to sister circles and going to sound healings and just exploring like different things. I went to temples, I went to different churches. I just tried all kinds of different religions and faiths and practices. And then somehow I found my way back to astrology. And astrology is like its own language that for me, I'm able to understand really easily. And so that was what gave me the permission to kind of say like, oh, I think this is it. This is astrology. Like this is what I really love to practice. It makes sense to me. It feels natural to me. So I was around 33, Jesus age.
I was about
Right,
to say,
exactly.
was the master teacher number 33.
Right, master teacher number, right,
Yeah,
around 33 when I officially was like, I am the astrologer and I'm embracing astrology. Yeah.
beautiful. So
Yeah.
now I kind of feel like I have to do this, which
Yeah.
is, so you must have been, you must have, we all have, but you did it in your own way. You
Yeah.
must have been going through a lot of stuff the last decade or so, because, more than that, but Pluto and Capricorn, right? And
Yeah.
now it's headed out into Aquarius. So if it was right on your sun or an
Yes.
ear,
Right.
what are some of the impacts that you felt from Pluto, the planet? I feel like, it's the one that drags you underground, keeps
Right.
you
And
there, then you
transforms you.
slowly crawl out.
Yes.
Not like Uranus, which is like,
Right.
wake up, you know?
Exactly. It's not sudden. It's like a slow burn. And I
Yeah,
think like for me, what's interesting is okay, so I'm a Capricorn sun and my sun is in the 12th house. And
me
the
too.
yeah, oh well,
That's
that
why. That's why
makes
we're
sense.
doing this. This is
This
why we're
makes
doing
so much
this.
sense. Yeah. What house is your moon in?
The 12th house.
Oh,
Wait,
whoa. Oh,
wait,
I
wait,
love
wait,
that.
wait. Ask me where my Mercury is. The
Wait.
12th house.
Oh
No.
my, so you have a 12th house stellium, so do I.
Okay, this is beautiful. I
This
want
is
you to explain. We both do astrology, but I want you to explain what a
yes.
stellium is and
Yes.
why that's important and why, like this, having a stellium in the 12th house is what it
Oh,
is. Go
yes,
ahead.
exactly. Okay, so a stellium is when you have 3 or more planets or asteroids in the same sign or in the same house, and it just concentrates the energy that much more. And the 12th house, in particular, so my moon is actually in the 8th house, and then my sun is in the 12th house. So it's like pretty like, whoa, right? Exactly. But the 12th house is really all about the subconscious programs that you have or reprogramming that you do. It's about where you grow spiritually. It's about insights into your mind, into your soul, and the depths of your soul. The 8th house is a little bit more about the same things, but more in the shadow side of who you are. And so having so much concentration in the 12th house and also spiritual beliefs that it can really transform and really give you this sense of almost like authority on like spiritual matters. It's very like goddess energy. And so a lot of mystics, a lot of witches, a lot of all of those have like 8th or 12th house placements. It doesn't mean if you don't have them that you're not, but it's just you definitely are going to be a little bit more on the witchy woo side if you have a lot of 8th or 12th house placements.
Oh my
And
God.
that's why it's so funny because for me, so Aquarius, I use Placidus in my system. So what I
So do
do
I.
is I have, I'm also a Capricorn rising and an Aquarius rising. So I have a little bit of Aquarius in my first house as well. So I'm still going through essentially when Pluto first moved into Capricorn, it was in my 12th house, which makes a lot of sense that I would start to question my beliefs. I would question my spiritual faith. I would question the practices and the subconscious programming that I was having. Pluto was bringing death and transformation to how I believed in things. And that started around, I would say 2010 is when 2010 is when I graduated from college. And that was the same, I went to a religious college. So now I finally had freedom in my own way. And 2008 is when Pluto moved into Capricorn. So I was already starting this journey of like questioning my spiritual religion and all of that. And then when when Pluto continued to transit into my first house, it started changing my identity and like who I was. And it became important to me to try to figure out who am I in the like grand scheme of spirituality? Am I a mystic? Am I a witch? Am I this? Am I that? Or am I part of my religion? And am I part of this? And like all these different things. It became like the title became important, which makes sense because it was transiting through my first house. So it's still transiting in my first house. And so I'm still feeling that energy, but it's not at least on my sun
Oh my
really
God.
agitating that.
Oh my God. No, it's such a journey because
Yeah.
I knew before Pluto went into my 8th house when it was
Yeah.
transiting in Cap that I was like, okay, so I'm gonna inherit a little money. Maybe people are gonna die. Maybe I'll get married.
Right?
All of those things happened
Oh,
during
yeah.
the transit.
Yeah.
Mom, my dad, and my younger brother passed right in
Oh,
2020. I know,
yeah.
but
Mm,
you know, we
yeah.
flew with it, but it was really, really intense and a big
Yeah.
change. Like I'm the elder now. I'm the elder of the family in North America. We've got elders in South. So
Yeah.
yeah, crazy.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's like stepping into that. And then we did buy a house.
Yeah.
I did get married and I did receive a little, a little bit of
A little
money
bit
from.
of money. Yeah.
So it's like, I'm like, now Pluto's going into Aquarius and I'm like, bitch, get out of the 8th house. Just
Yes,
get out.
get out.
Just keep moving forward and get in there in the publishing sector. And
Yes. Oh, right. Get that book out.
yeah, don't take no more from me, please. But
Yes.
I think like, so what do you feel like even in general that Pluto and Aquarius is going to invite us into?
Oh, girl. So let me tell you,
I know it
Pluto.
could be a whole podcast, but
Right, that could be a totally different podcast, but Aquarius is a very powerful energy. So it rules over technology, it rules over groups and networks that we're part of, it rules over the communities that we're part of, and it rules over the dreams that we have for the collective. And so when you think of, and then you think of Pluto, Pluto is that planet of transformation, of death, of rebirth, rebirth, of healing, of unhealing, of all those kind of things. So wherever Pluto lands, it's going to bring both endings and beginnings, transformations and new starts to that particular topic. So when we look at Pluto in Aquarius, we can definitely see, I mean, we see it literally happening in our world today. The collective is shifting, the vibration is changing, the way that we perceive the world and what we expect from people is also shifting. Our community has become incredibly important. We went from Pluto in Capricorn, where Capricorn is a very kind of isolated sign, and so it's not very focused on the public and the person, but it is focused on the government. And you think of when we have Pluto in Capricorn, we ended it with COVID, we ended it with this isolation period. But then when we move from Pluto in Capricorn to Pluto in Aquarius, all of a sudden community has become so vital and so important to so many of us, where we're starving for attention. That
Yes.
makes a lot of sense because Pluto is in Aquarius. We're also seeing shifts in how we are seeing our government change. A lot of our systems are falling apart, and now new systems are coming into place. Even though we don't really know, like, what is it going to manifest into, we can see that what was working before, we recognize that system is not equal for all. And therefore, Aquarius is that dream about the collective. What do we want for equality for all, in a sense? And so we can see that there's those questions that are coming up within the collective. And now we're actually inviting people to take a different perspective and take different action and stand up for communities and protect our communities and things like that. So I feel like you can kind of see it in society. But what about you? Like, what do you think when it comes to Pluto and Aquarius?
I mean, of course, there's going to be a long, drag out like battle.
Yeah.
Like AI could be used for good, but I'll tell you,
Oh,
so many people are just writing like even full on grant applications with AI and things like
yes.
that. And I'm like, girl, we could tell, or guy, we could
Yes, which
like
makes sense too, because Aquarius rules over AI. So there
exactly.
we would
Yes, I know.
see that huge influx of
Mhm.
artificial intelligence during a Pluto and
Yes.
Aquarius. Yeah,
Exactly. That's what
totally.
I'm saying. Like we're in for a long drag out thing because it does cover AI, it covers all technology,
Yeah.
holograms. I think also with Neptune going into Aries, the combination of that, uh, just yes, you were very hopeful when you shared that we're going to be protecting our communities. I
Mhm.
hope so,
I hope so too.
because it's an attack right now on community.
Yeah,
And
right. But
but
that's the Pluto and transformation,
like
bringing
it's
death,
going into the ground,
suffering.
we're like smashed. Like
Yeah,
a Latina Roman, she's like, "What the hell's going on in the world?" And I'm like, "I guess we all have to be aplastado y jodido together so we could be transformado." And that's like Boricua slang for we got to be smashed and
yeah,
screwed so then we could transform together. Like,
yes,
but I
exactly.
do think we are. I think that
Yeah,
we are. That's why I've been saying a lot online. Like, this is the long haul.
yeah,
We've got to. There are people who need to be on the front lines.
yeah,
There are people who are more vulnerable. They need not be on the front lines. Like,
yeah,
if you're who's not born in the U.S., don't be on the front lines. I
yeah,
was going to go to a protest just for peace and freedom the other day,
yeah,
2 weeks ago, and I decided not to. I was born in Peru. Like, I don't.
yeah. You don't need to be there, girl.
And,
Mm-mm.
and maybe they leave me alone. But I'm just saying, like, but
But
if I
you
see
never know.
like, don't touch them, you know what I mean? So I
Yes.
just be at peace. But I think for anybody who feels like, I was born here for generations, I could do this.
Yeah.
But there's a time, there will be a big time of transformation. And I do believe what you
Yeah.
said, that we will move to protecting our communities. But
Yeah.
it's like we've got to know what it's like to maybe go
Yeah.
through the dark night of
We
the
do.
soul.
Well, we have to go through the dark night of the soul because again, Pluto represents death and
Yeah,
endings. So there's going to be that experience of death and endings to what we knew to be true.
yeah,
Everything has to shift and change. And right now, when you also see we have so many planets in Pisces, there's this like Pisces rules over delusion, Pisces rules over, the like non-reality of things. And the balance, the side of that, the light side of that is that you have to be a little delusional to manifest, to create something that you've never seen before. You have to be a little delusional. But the shadow side of it is that sometimes what you think is real is not actually happening. And so right now, I feel like what we're experiencing is we are in the delusions, but we're also experiencing like the breakdown of
yes.
reality, and the matrix is starting to kind of break down. So because of that, we're going to go through some really challenging times because we have to first identify the matrix and then break it down.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's beautifully said and beautifully shared. And I love Pisces, I have North Node in Pisces. And so I'm very like,
Oh,
inspiration, spirituality, creativity in that voice. Exactly. No,
yeah.
but,
Exactly like
but
that.
I go to Delulu land,
Yeah.
and the only Delulu I allow myself is when I'm looking at Love Is Blind, right?
Yeah.
On speed. I put it on speed. I'm like this, and they're like, I don't know if I like you anymore. I want to marry you, and I'm like, girl, get a therapy.
Exactly.
But I think that this has been like, especially with the recent eclipse, like
Mhm.
a
Oh,
hard awakening. Like
yeah.
I know I've had personal awakenings, but like awakening. I mean, I already knew this was coming. I think you did too. A lot of
Mhm.
us did.
Yeah.
But like seeing the impact of all the changes in the world. But I am positive. I
Yeah.
do believe that we are shifting. I do believe, and that we're born for this, right?
Yeah.
Like we're
Mhm.
like, I'll go down for the transformation. We thought we were all going to be hanging on the beach on the bonfire.
Right.
You
And
know,
it's like, "Oh, girl, no." The elevation is very different than we thought.
no, this ain't no rave. It's not happening. So it's
Not at
like
all.
put your special K away and all other things that we need
Right?
to we need to be present. And I think too, you're talking about delusional and how we've had a lot of planets in Pisces.
Yeah.
I think that hopefully we're gonna, even though it's still there, we're gonna come out of that
Yeah.
because I do believe, and I love, I honor plant medicine.
Yeah.
I haven't done it myself. I've done like herbal remedies,
Yeah.
but I also have seen in the last 10 years, especially 8 years,
Yeah.
people who are like, I'm bipolar, I'm going to go do plant medicine, and then they're worse. Or I have
Yes.
a psychological issue, I don't need medicine anymore, I'm going to do this. And of
Mhm.
course, for every story I tell, there's going to be somebody out there who's like, no, I
Like,
was healed.
"No, that's not me." Right.
Right, and bless you.
Mhm.
But there's also, I think sometimes I honor plant medicine, but also taking it out of its environment and
100%. I
commu
just had this conversation.
community and the
Yeah.
community that it's anchored in. Because, like, I was born honoring dreams, right? Even though I was raised in New York City from South
Yeah.
America,
Yeah.
we discussed, like, my ancestors. We had an ancestral
Ooh.
altar, right? We talked about the dreams. ¿Cómo fue tu noche? ¿De qué soñaste? What did you dream of? And then we were, like, discussing the dream, and did we get a message from great-grandma? Like, that's my life, right? So
Wow.
it's something, like, I was raised with.
Yeah.
You throw people who are not raised or are not exposed to that, and then
Right.
you give them a dream life, right? These
Mhm.
are things that I think also the shift from Neptune and Pisces is gonna like bring like a jarring reality of, okay,
Yeah.
really
Oh,
happening.
yeah.
Like, it does have to be used and honored, but then how do we do it in what context, you know?
And what content, and I just, it's so funny, I just had this conversation with my husband last night that I was like, I also respect plant medicine. I've never actually like indulged, but at the same time, I said that I would be willing to if it's within ceremony and within the practice of what it is. I don't want to just experience something just for the sake of experiencing, because I want to I want to have that full bodied feeling of what the purpose of this was. And I think a lot of people, because of that Neptune and Pisces, have kind of led into the whimsical side of it, and so they're not taking it as seriously. So that's something that's definitely, and I can see so much danger in that, which is why I'm like, no, you want to take it from people that they're really respecting of the plants, and they respect the vibration of the plants and what this is supposed to do and elevate you and expose you to things that you would not be exposed to without it, and things like that. Like, it's all about respecting what the practice is, and that's really important. But I feel
Right.
like we'll definitely see a shift in that when we move from Neptune into Aries. But I'm a little scared of Neptune into Aries, because I
Me
also,
too.
yeah, because there's a lot of, in the past, we had, I believe, the Civil War happened during Neptune in Aries. So when we can see our country is like doing some crazy stuff, so there's nervousness around that. And then at the same time, Neptune in Aries energy can be very, very self-focused and self-based. And so kind of all of a sudden, Neptune with this kind of delusional energy can make us see ourselves differently than what we actually are, in addition to becoming more maybe even self-centered and self-protective because of the Neptune in Aries. So I'm a little nervous about, like, how are we going to handle this, with this?
Right, and then like Pluto and Aquarius.
Right. It's such a different, right.
So I want to bring it back to you. I love talking astrology. I was like, oh, we gotta have her over here. Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna ask the questions that I usually ask la gente que viene, the people who come.
Okay.
What are some of the ancestral patterns you needed to break in order to be who you are? I mean, some of them I think we already know, but
Yeah.
from what you shared. But what did you have to heal or transform or end in order to be who you are today?
Well, I think a couple of things. So one of the things that I find, definitely thinking for yourself and getting to this place of like believing in your own belief system, because I think excuse me, I think a lot of the women in my family have we so I'm third generation inside of that particular cult. My grandmother joined when she was 12, and then she raised her four children in it, and then her four children raised all of my cousins in it, and there's 16 cousins of us, so it's a lot of people. And each of us has our different experiences, but I was the first one to kind of like veer off from the path, and then eventually slowly people started veering off as well. And some people are still in it. My mom is sort of in it, but not really as much, not as strict as she used to be. But I feel like what I had to break was this really like this belief that I couldn't trust myself. You know what I mean? And so that is a huge, huge generational curse that I had to break. In addition to the fact that another curse that I had to break was a lot of the women in my family actually passed away in childbirth, or had a lot of like, even the woman that I'm named after is my great grandmother, and she passed away in childbirth, and she gave birth to twins, and then that was all. And she had, I believe, 12 children. And so my grandma, that's her mom, she named me after her. And I haven't had children yet. And so I hope that I'll be fine. I anticipate that I will be. But my mom also broke that curse as well, because she had a very, I mean, incredibly traumatic childbirth with me, where I almost passed away. And my mom went into a coma for 3 days. But she survived. And that's the good part, where it's like she made it to the other side. And I feel like that was a curse that she broke that I'm going to continue to break as well. So there's something, I think, just generationally, where our voices as women in this family have been silenced, and our belief in ourselves has been silenced, whether it's literally by our lives being literally cut short, or by our beliefs being challenged so much that we were like beat into submission. There was also a lot of like physical violence in my home and growing up. And so with that being said, a lot of and now I'm in an incredibly healthy, I feel so blessed and grateful to have my husband. We've been best friends for 20 years. We've known each other since college, and now we just got married back in December. And yeah, and I'm so grateful for this beautifully healthy, like, I'm so lucky to have him in my life. He's lucky too, but still, but
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
yeah, but I'm so grateful for that. And I know that that's another kind of curse that I broke, is getting out of these toxic systems where women in my family are literally either figuratively or literally beat into submission in our beliefs, in our love life, in our physical body, whatever it is, in order to have some sense of freedom. And I feel like I really broke that.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
thank you
yes.
for that.
Oh, yeah. It's really strong. And
Yeah.
here's to continue breaking, so you give
Yeah.
birth and you're all healthy and okay. Now,
Yeah.
what gifts are you leaning into, Lexie?
I think I'm owning the witchy woo. Like, I'm really
Mhm.
owning it. Yeah, because I feel like so my family's from the Caribbean, and I was born in New York. And so one thing that I really feel like, we lost touch because of the transatlantic slave trade, because of the shift from the Caribbean to America, because of the religion. There's all these things that kind of got in the way of, over time, through different generations in my family, that got us away from our like indigenous roots, if you will, right? And I feel like for me, now that I'm like connecting back to my ancestors, I have my ancestor altar, like I'm leaning into it, and I'm really owning that these are my practices. You know what I mean? Like, technically, if the slave trade never happened, if my grandmother never left the Caribbean, if she never found that religion, we would probably be practicing all of these things anyway, because it's ours, it's what we do. And so I I've been leaning really heavily into learning more about, for example, I did my ancestry so that way I could find out where I'm from. And I found out what was so crazy. This is crazy, girl. So I am very connected to like mythology and goddesses. I've always been that way since I was a kid. Even when I was a kid, I remember I did a book report on the Egyptian goddess Isis. And
Mhm.
I was in 5th grade when I did that. Like, I have no idea why I was so obsessed with this stuff. But along the journey of my spiritual practices, I fell in love with Goddess Yamaya. She's celebrated on my birthday in Brazil, and she's known from Nigeria to the Dominican Republic to Cuba to Brazil to Portugal. She's like all these different places. She's popped up, if you will, where people and communities really honor her. And I deeply connect. Like, I really feel like I'm a daughter of Yamaya. Well, what was so interesting was when I did my ancestry, I find out I'm very, very mixed in terms of like, I'm from all over Africa. So there's no like one thing. I'm from all over Africa, but the majority of where I come from is Nigeria, which is the same location that Yamaya begins. So it's interesting how I connected to her story and we literally celebrated on the same day. And my favorite number is number 7. Her favorite number is 7. My favorite color is blue. Hers are blue and white. She loves the beach. I literally like love the beach, obsessed with it. I really felt so connected to her. And that then I find out here this like, if it wasn't for all of these things that have happened in history and all this stuff, I probably would be connecting and be a daughter of Yamaya officially. So I'm leaning into that now, where I'm really owning that this is who I'm meant to be and not apologizing for that. And especially with my family, where they're still very afraid of a lot of the things that I believe in, I'm
Yes.
learning to lean into it regardless of how they may judge me for it or how they may misunderstand me. Like, that's fine that you're afraid, that you don't have to believe what I believe. This is what I believe because it works for me. And I think I'm leaning into that a lot more.
Oh my God, I love that so much. I want to share with everyone. Let me see if I can move. I just
Yes.
did. Um, yes, we have no shoes are there. Yes, I know.
Oh,
Show it, no, publicly, but I want you to see this.
yes.
Oh, yeah, my
Oh, yeah, my yeah. Oh my God, seashells. Yes. And I collect seashells, which I did not know that was connected to her. I just collected them my whole life.
right, because you're already carrying the ancestral wisdom. And I think that,
Yes.
so many of us, but I'm really happy that this is happening and for you and for so many of us. But I think specifically
Mhm.
Black Americans, what
Yeah.
I've studied and what I've seen,
Yeah.
and also Afro Latinos, and also just Latinos, period, like the demonization, the rejection,
Yes.
and I was very blessed to study with Dr. Marta Moreno Vega. She's an
Mhm.
Afro Latina. She's
Oh,
probably in her 80s now, but she created
yes.
the Museo del Barrio in New York. She created the Afro-Caribbean Cultural Center in New York. And I
Wow.
took Afro-Caribbean's religion class with her like 27 years ago. And
Oh, I would love that.
she brought in people to do the drumming. She taught us things. She is initiated into Santeria. And there's different
Oh,
paths.
Santeria. Yeah. Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, and I have so many friends who are priests and people who walk the Yoruba path. And when my brother called me, he's like, we were doing our DNA. And he goes, what do you think everybody's going to be shocked about? I'm like, that we're West African. And
Yeah.
he's like, I go, but not so far away. Not like a
Right.
thousand.
Not so far away at all.
He said it's a little closer, whatever we may look like or not. And it's
Right.
what it was. And, it also made me sad because we
Mhm.
don't know, right?
Yeah.
We don't know because I'm also Spanish. I'm also
Yeah.
Portuguese. I'm
Yeah.
also French. You know what I mean? I'm also
Mm.
all the
Right.
colonizers, right? And I'm like, also,
Right. Exactly.
right. And then I'm like, okay. And then
Yeah.
several places in West Africa.
Yeah.
But we've been taught to deny it. I
Yeah.
don't know how it happened that my parents didn't, and they had an altar, and there's a
Wow.
big saint here, and my brother was dedicated to Babaluaye, and he is on the other side of that Saint Lazarus.
Yes.
He was born with and he didn't initiate, but he was dedicated. And I was dedicated as a child. I was in Peru and I was born with a health condition. My mom
Mm.
went to the local healers who
Mhm.
did like a reading on me. And they're like, you have to dedicate her to San Martin de Porres. St. Martin is like the first Black saint. So I
Wow.
literally slept with a black saint this like this big in my bed as it was a baby. People, I was like, because Argentina has a very sad history, along with many South American countries, of
Yeah.
unfortunately enslaving people and then putting people who were freed at the front of the war, right? At the front,
Yeah.
or creating rules and laws to allow for Europeans to come into the country, all that, and subjugating indigenous people in their lives.
Mhm.
And I remember that when somebody was saying to me, you're different from some Argentinian thinking, or I was like, well, when you were born and raised on kneeling to a black saint,
Yeah. It changed. Yeah.
yeah, if I saw something, I was like, don't hurt God. I remember being 4 years old, and I
No.
saw something where there was like racial violence, and I was like, they're hurting
Mm.
God. And my parents were looking at me, it looks just like God, and it's so because I know it's not a common thing, but people always
Yeah.
like, I go, you have to understand that I was like on my knee praying to a black saint. So
Yeah.
at a young age, I connected that to divinity.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
You know
how
what I
beautiful.
mean? Which
Yeah.
so that no, it really didn't shock me that then, well, my parents were, doing some Yoruba and Santeria practices. They didn't fully initiate, but some
Mhm.
of the levels. And people are like, well, you're so light, but it's there, it transfers in. And
Yeah.
in New York, you have so many cultures all on top of each
Mhm.
other
Yeah.
that when I went to readers, they were all either Afro Latinos, indigenous Latinos. I
Yes.
don't think I ever really went to readers as a young person, meaning under 25,
Yeah.
that were like Irish. Do you know what I'm saying? And there are
Really?
people who are Irish in New York,
Right.
obviously, but
Yeah.
that's what it was. So then
Wow. That's
I created
beautiful.
the School of the Healing Artists to support BIPOC and Latinx, because I'm like, well, I grew up with that, but then they're showing me size 2, 20-year-old blonde boy.
Mhm.
What's wrong?
Yeah.
But God bless you if you're listening to this. We love you,
Yeah.
but it's like it can't be the only figure of spirituality.
No.
You know?
Yeah, I know. And it's scary how it became the like mascot, I guess, of or whatever, like the identity of spirituality. And yet these are black and brown practices. You know what I mean? And so it's like, and yet when we practice, it's demonized. Whether
Yeah.
you're talking about Hudun or Santeria or like any of these things where we look at it, and it's funny because my mom is very religious, so I have to be very, very careful when I talk with her because she gets very nervous about a lot of things. And one of the things that we had a conversation around was like the demonization of African practices in particular. And so my mom was like, well, no, you got to be careful because you never know. And I just thought like, wow, how brainwashed. Because this is you if it wasn't for colonization, this would have been your practice. This is your way to connect. This is your way to have your power. And we know that a huge part of colonization is to confuse the people, to take away their culture, to take away their language. I mean, they made it illegal for us to have our names. They made it illegal for us to read. They made it illegal for us to speak our mother tongue. So that is why so many Black Americans have no idea or concept of what their name even is. We don't even know, where every name that we have is still connected to our slave owners more than it's connected to our people, right? And so it's like now to have the belief system in your head that your practices are demonized or demon worshipped or whatever the case is, and yet this is what gives you your power and connection. It's really sad, because it's such a beautiful part of what we contribute. And I believe so much in the beauty of difference that it's like a huge part of what we can contribute as people is our different beliefs and our different practices, and how we can respect each other or find similarities within the differences and be like, wow, okay, so you call it Jesus, but I call it Muhammad, or I call it this, or I love these differences where it's like, I remember when I was in school and I had a world religion class, and it was so interesting to hear how all of these stories were so similar, but just different names.
Yes.
So yeah, and I was like, that is beautiful. And yet we want to say, well, no, but this is wrong and this is wrong and this one's right and this one's right. Like, no, it's not. of course there's things that there's the light and the shadow. So we always want to be careful about the energy that we mess with or that we're dealing with. But there's so much beauty also in differences, and you can find light and shadow in everything. So it's not so much that, oh, well, this is bad and this is good. It could all be bad and it could all be good. It's just about whether or not your intention behind it and how you use it becomes what it is, you know? But I think like trying to title something and then say, oh, well, African mythology is horrible. That I find that so interesting too, how it's like, even when we talk about African mythology or we talk about Latinx mythology and things like that, and then how it's connected, when we speak about that, but then when we talk about like Greek mythology or Irish mythology, it's okay. Like that doesn't make sense to me. How is it okay that we can like talk about goddess Freya, but we can't talk about goddess Yemaya? You know, like
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense to me at all, you know? But that's where you can see the racism and the injustice and things like that kind of showing up spiritually when it comes to those things. And it's time for many of us to kind of break down those belief systems and look at, wait a minute, what am I fearing something because of racism that I'm not aware of, which so many of us, including myself, I feared my own practices because I was raised to believe that it was bad, you know,
Yes.
and that it's not. But anyway, I'm going on a tangent on that.
No, I love it. I love it. I'm like, go, go, go. I love it. I'm like, yes, yes, preach, preach. I'm with you. And, you know, a lot of BIPOC and Latinos listen and many other people listen. And the same thing is for Latinos. Like, people are so afraid. That's why I took on the name Bruja. You know, I took on the
Yes,
name witch,
I love that.
being because I was the urban priestess years before, right, in New York City,
Yeah,
um, because I did initiate at 22, but more like a goddess path.
yeah,
But I would say that I took on the word bruja because I was like, no, that was just
it was not.
demonized and
Yeah,
colonized. It's like connecting to cycles, connecting
yeah.
to the stars, to the
Connecting to nature.
each other, to the nature, to
Yeah,
listening to the wisdom of the animal spirits that are giving us messages about our environment and our inner and outer world, being
yeah.
kind to each other, interdependence, creating our community, helping each other. It's not, you know, we see a lot of images of witches alone because that's
Yeah.
after the witch hunts. And I
Yes.
was saying, you know, that with what's happening now in the world, there's so much scapegoating and witch hunting. But when I
Mhm.
tried to analyze it from the ancestral lens, I was like, well, this has been happening probably prior to 1300s, but
Yeah.
I know that for the Spanish Inquisition, right,
Mhm.
1300s,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
Muslim people get rid of the Jewish people, and you have to
Yeah.
convert. Then we go into the 1400s to the 1700s, witch hunts, where they just wanted your land, so they
Yes.
wouldn't even say
Right.
you're a
So they would
witch.
demonize, yes, especially if you were a woman, a single woman or an older woman, they would just demonize you so that way they could take your land.
Yeah, rape you, abuse you, torture you, and then charge you for all that. Does that sound
Right.
familiar? But we're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
But we don't have all day, but I love this conversation. And
Me
I
too.
think what we're seeing now, what I was calling for when I said there's scapegoating and witch hunting
Yeah.
again, and that we have this ancestral trauma for
Mhm.
like, I don't know, centuries or maybe a millennia, who knows, that
Yeah.
we need to stop. Like we're more alike than different.
Yeah.
Um, is there a particular gift that you lean into to be who you are and to thrive in the magic of who you are?
Ooh, well, okay, couple things. I think one, um, you know, okay, so to answer the other question too, I guess, I'm also leaning into my clairvoyance a lot. Which is so perfect for Pisces season, even though now we're in Aries, but during Pisces season, I really started, I've always been a dreamer, and that I will say culturally, what's so funny is in the religion that I grew up in, we didn't necessarily believe in like meanings and dreams and things like that. However, my grandmother believed in the power of dreams. She was very much like, listen to your dreams, God speaks to us through our dreams and things like that. So yeah, so I'm very, which I really believe that that was more of a culture thing that she grew up with as well. And so I really believed in my dreams. So I've always been a dreamer. And then having that sun in the 12th house, Pisces energy rules over dreams, you know? So I've always been a dreamer, and I've been very intentional about trying to literally see things, not only just in my dreams, but in reality. You know what I mean? Like trying to open that up. Versus like when I think of myself literally 10 years ago, that would have terrified me. So kind of leaning into mediumship in that kind of way and connecting that way. And I think also ritual, like that's another thing that kind of is a practice for me, which is very Capricorn answer to say, but I love doing things like with the full moons, doing things with the new moons, and really honoring nature and honoring my practice for the sake of the practice. Like I love that sort of like really, having my simmer pot going on and writing my wishes on bay leaves and, putting out my moon water and then using that moon water for different practices, like having my crystals next to me while I'm doing my stuff. Like I really love all of that kind of things, those kind of things about being mystical and being magical, and so yeah, I feel like those are the practices that I use, that I heavily rely on in order to stay connected to my roots.
That so much. And I'm so happy that you're the first to open your eyes and decide like where you were wasn't for you, and to be
Yeah.
brave enough to step outside and ask questions, like
Mm.
who were we before colonization? Who were we before coming to America? Who were we? Who are we?
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much, because it's been a journey. Like I think it's one thing to shift into these beliefs and shift into these practices, but it's another thing to have to break down the fears around it. And I was raised to have so much fear around the things that now I find so much peace in. And so thank you for seeing me and for seeing that breakdown. Yeah. So that way I could even see that in myself and celebrate that and be like, wow, like, yeah, I really came. It was literally because I'm 39 now and I was 29 when I first left the religion. So it's like, it's literally been 10 years of trying to find my identity. And now I feel like I'm in the integration stage of actually owning it and becoming who I am and would have been had I not had all these other experiences trying to kind of stifle that reality? Yeah.
I love
Oh,
that so much. And I love that you shared that it was 10 years. Everybody wants everything overnight.
yeah.
And even people are like, oh, I want to be where you are. I'm like, look, it took a long time,
It took a long time.
You have to integrate. But I love that. And, I'm sure that you're on podcasts and you're writing and everywhere. But
Yeah.
I want to say that I felt like on a personal mission that I had to like interview you and just
Oh,
amplify your voice.
yeah. Well, thank you so much.
I
And I
really
appreciate you.
need to hear your story because they're in casa right now. They're home right now. Oh my God, it's my story. Oh my God, oh my God. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh,
And so thank you. And before we close, do you have anything coming up that you want to share? Today's spring equinox, right? Today, tomorrow. So
yes. Yes,
things.
yay. Yes, so happy New Year, everyone.
I've been doing the Witches Journey Summit, and now I'm here. I
Yes.
don't know, I'm all in the time and space, but I feel the blooming.
Yeah.
Blessed beginnings to everybody. Y también for you. Is there anything like a last thing you want to share? And then where can people find you?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So definitely, um, last thing I just want to share is honestly just a message for you. I am so grateful to you,
Mm,
honestly, because over the years of just watching you, you have given me so much permission. I'm gonna get emotional.
mm,
You have given me so much permission to like own my identity as a mystical and powerful woman, and especially as a Latina. Like the fact that it's like you're a woman of color, it has given me so much. You have always been so unapologetic in owning your identity in every part of, like, as an actress, as like a dancer, as like all these things, like seeing you do all these beautiful things and that are related to the culture, it gives me permission to like embrace myself and to be a little less scared. So I just want to say thank you to you for being who you are, because I've been watching you in the wings and it's given me so much permission to kind of own my identity as well. So thank you.
Now you got me crying.
Yeah.
I, I found an old journal that said something when I was like 16.
Yeah.
I just wrote at the heart of what I wanted to do was use my spiritual gifts and my
Mm.
creative gifts to help the world, right? And I think as women, we really have to light the way for each other and less competition, more collaboration. And
Yes.
I'm so touched, and I can't wait for and you are already seen, but to continue to be seen more and more and more, so all women can look at you and see you and also be inspired. And we have to do this for each other. We've been set against each other,
Yeah.
so we can squabble and fight and worry about how wide our butt is or
Yeah.
how big our boobs are, not how skinny we are, if we got wrinkles,
Right.
when you like legit, right?
Yeah.
And instead of, trusting our wisdom.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you
Being
for that.
able
I adore you. You just gave me something that I needed. I adore
Yes.
you. And where can people find you, Lexie?
Yes, yes. You can find me on Instagram at Sacred Social Studio. You can also find me now on Substack. That's my main hub where I do my writing, I do trainings on astrology, I do a weekly insights into what you can expect each week from the astrology from the stars. So that's on Substack, and the links will also probably be in the description as well. And then if you're also into readings, astrology readings, whether it's to understand more about yourself and your identity, your purpose, your challenges, your strengths, then you can also book a reading with me. I love doing readings. They are so much fun. They're not just about looking into the future or understanding the past, which we can totally do, but they're also just about understanding yourself and being able to know what it means to be a Capricorn, or what it means to have your sun in the 12th house, and how you can utilize that to manifest and to create success in your life and in your business. So if you are looking into a reading or looking for an astrologer, then I definitely would love to be your astrologer as well. So check out the links in the description.
I love that so much, Lexie. Follow her, work with her, and gracias
Yay.
por estar con nosotros. If you feel like this conversation touched your heart, inspired you in any way, let us know. Sometimes we're out here in the world, in the internet world, in the energetic world, putting out messages, and it's so nice to hear back because it's
Yeah.
giving and receiving, giving, receiving. I love you all. Los amo. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Thank you, Lexie. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.